welcome to K.I.S.S. Recovery 101. This is Bridge. I'm going to be your host tonight, and I'm so excited. Jason, we for sure have one viewer with a heart. I got a heart.
All right.
Jason B is back. He's the first ever guest for the show. And yes, he said yes. You're a busy person out of town, and tonight we're gonna. So we left off kind of the first time talking about those surrender steps 1, 2, and 3. So I thought, well, we'll just continue this till we get through all 12 steps casually,
Yeah.
and simplified. So Jason, how you doing?
I'm good.
You're gonna want to get closer to the mic. I know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. Been in town this week, but wasn't feeling so great. But I don't know. Everything's good now.
Where'd you go?
Where was I last?
Is it a blur?
I don't even remember anymore. Oh, I was in Memphis.
Oh, cool.
Memphis, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are still doing the Back to Basics, which is, why don't you tell them what Back to Basics is and what you do Tuesday night, 6:15, Fridley Alano.
Yeah, all right. So what Back to Basics is we treat it like the old school way of when AA was brand new, basically. You would go into a club if you were fortunate enough to find one of these Alano clubs, and you would have to go through an educational course where you would go through all 12 of the steps in order to even be a member there. We don't do it we're not like that now, obviously. I mean, membership is just a desire, to stop.
That's the only requirement is the desire.
Exactly. And so, but what we do is we go through all the steps in like 4 or 5 sessions, and we work them and we actually do them, because we found that all this BS about, just go to meetings and hang out with sober people and blah, 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 and you'll be sober. Well, that's bullshit. And, we need to do the steps. The steps are where it's at. So that's what we do, and we really work them. And, the Back to Basics thing was around before there was sponsorship. Mm-hmm. But we talk about, we'll be your sharing partners in this or whatever, so that we get through it. And a big part of it is like we're doing tonight, which is taking that fear of the 4-step away. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But we know that a lot of people like me have done the 1, 2, 3 and feel good and think everything's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they do the third 3-step shuffle and they're all good. And then, you hesitate on doing the 4th. And then you're drunk or using again, and that's not cool. Mm-hmm. We need to just do it, and just do it the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is an evil thing. There's no such thing as perfect. We do the best we can. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to talk about that here tonight.
Yeah, so I do enjoy, so we'll do like the workshop, which usually ends up being like a 1-day good overview of all of them. And I find that every time we do the workshop, the most positive feedback I get is about you and how you go through and kind of break down the step forward. It doesn't seem so scary. And I found that for me, I also did that shuffle of the first 3. And for me, the reason, step 4, you hear so many times through so many different mouths what it is, and it sounds really scary. I mean, I heard, moral inventory, and you got to list out all the worst things about yourself, and for me, it was like I had to relive that pain. What? And not really understanding what it was or having it explained to me was scary. And I mean, I would dip into it a little bit, and right away, it's bringing up trauma, it's bringing up bad memories, it's bringing up all the reasons I was drinking. And what do you think I did when I was faced with that? I ran as far away from it as I could. And I just recently shared, there's 2 acronyms for fear, and now I choose the second one. So the first one is forget everything and run. That was me.
Yes.
But the one I like to use now is face everything and rise.
Nice.
Isn't that cool? Rise above it. Rise above the BS.
I like that. That's good.
So let's just start off with say we're doing a workshop, or say we're on session 2, which is the start of step 4. What do you start with when you start walking people through it?
Well, Well, first of all, I go through really quick steps 1, 2, and 3 first because
And we've already done that on the first show.
yeah.
And why is that important?
Well, the reason why 1, 2, and 3 are important is because the biggest part of this program, I mean, it's all huge, of course, but we do them in order. And 1, 2, and 3 is about doing the surrender thing.
Yes.
And you got to do that as good as you possibly for real can, because if you don't do a full surrender, none of this stuff is going to work. So, I mean, I start out right away and I just pound this down. Is that honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
The how.
Yeah, how. And
How
there's a
to
chapter.
surrender.
There's the chapter in the big book that says how it works, and I like to look at it as the acronym how, and then the semicolon or whatever. It works. So honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. It works, and so that's what we do. And so how I would start out is I'd go through 1, 2, and 3 again really quick, just so that people know. What that's about. It's like, okay, admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. The big question for that is you probably, we don't go through this whole thing describing what an alcoholic is. Most people know and what that is and this and that. If you need some other information, there's all kinds of it out there. If you need to try some controlled drinking or using again,
Research.
We don't want you to, but if you need to, we don't want you to die. We want you to come in here so we can help you. But the question for that is, do you concede to your innermost self that you are an alcoholic or an addict? And we have asked everybody in the room.
And that can be a heavy question.
Oh,
So this past couple weeks now, we've had a newcomer in the meeting, and what I really appreciated and respected about him and saw myself in him exactly was I didn't really concede. I didn't know how, that's a heavy word, like concede to my innermost self that, I'm this thing, because I questioned that, because in my own, when I wasn't clear-headed, in my own reality, am I really that? Because in the beginning, I didn't have any consequences, right? And I did all the things that people said you're supposed to do to be this upholding citizen. I had a great job. I ran my household. It was a beautiful, clean house. My kids went to school. They did their homework. I just had those those coincidences, those things that kept happening that didn't work out. And so that question can be heavy, but I think it really falls into the how of, the honesty, being open-minded, but the last one for me was key is being willing, okay? So I can concede at this time, right now, something's not right with what's going on. I can concede to that. And that's how I kind of just started on my path.
Yes.
But it was a heavy question, and I like when people actually say, because it says in the Back to Basics book, if someone has reservations about it, stay after the meeting. Let's talk about it. That's your opportunity to meet a sharing partner. Like you said, back then there wasn't sponsors. They were sharing partners. And you could have a conversation about it to get to that how part.
Exactly.
Does that sound reasonable?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm being all honest. For me, I was so lost in all my thinking and my comprehension of things that, those questions were hard for me to really honestly answer, because I honestly I didn't even know my own truth anymore.
Oh, yeah. No, and we've all deceived ourselves so much, and we've become self-loathing, and so we don't think we deserve these things, and it's become a comfort zone to complicate the shit out of everything, so that it's so chaotic that there's no way that we can recover, which is all pure bullshit, because we've been deceiving ourselves. And so that's why the honesty is huge, and the open-mindedness is, you just got to try. And
be willing to be open. Yeah.
And really, and I'll talk about that too, but the willingness is the only reason why I'm here now. And everything has changed only because of that willingness.
Absolutely.
And, I was willing to be honest. I was willing to be honest after I'd been beat down enough.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But so we need to keep it really simple too, because this is what we're doing. We're gonna trust in our higher power. We're going to clean house, and we're going to help others. That's it.
That's it.
That's all we're doing. So, but when we do this 1, 2, and 3, we're laying down a foundation that's got to be solid. It's got to be as solid as you can make it. And I'm going to reiterate the perfectionism thing. You know, we all, oh, I'm a perfectionist, blah, blah, blah. Well, then, you know, if you can't do it exactly perfectly right, then you won't ever get through it. And that is such a crock of shit. That's like a crutch for so many alcoholics, why they can't continue on. Oh, I couldn't do it enough, so I just stopped. You know, I couldn't do it quite right. I didn't do it all the way. It wasn't thorough enough. Fuck that.
Well, and it's like, see, I'm on the other side of that. For me, it wasn't like a crutch. It was a defect. It was this terrible defense mechanism I had that stemmed from my childhood. And I said this in the first show, I just remember, because as a child, not being loved and not being accepted, I was never good enough. No matter what I did, straight A's. I remember 7th grade, you know, they got letters to come to see me get this awards. I ended up going with my friend because I knew I was getting a bunch of awards.
Yeah.
And how sad I was because my name got called. I went up there 5 times for all these awards.
Yeah.
And no, everyone's like, well, where's your family? They're not here. Because they didn't care, you know?
Yeah,
and so for me, the perfectionism thing really is just this constant desire to want to be my best and strive to be my best. And even with this program, you know, I wanted to do it to the max of the capacity so it was thorough, you know, but really without, that's the key, is a proper, like a sharing partner, someone that you trust that can, like you, or someone that I could have sat down with and said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be authentic. It has to be true to you, you know. That's all I needed to hear. But, you know, for years, everyone's picked apart and made this program their own way. And that's what I love about Back to Basics, is it's just back to the basics.
Yes.
Keep it simple, stupid.
That's right. That's why it's called KISS, right?
I'm such a dummy.
Yes. Me too, though, and that's why I just keep doing this over and over, because I need the simplicity of it, you know. And I used to complicate the living shit out of this, and there's no need to do that. But so I mean, so right there, when you concede your innermost self, you're
So
just
I answer
being
yes.
honest. Yeah, there you go. You're going to be honest, and you're going to be open-minded about spiritual matters and everything, and willing. So then we're on to step 2 that says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, right? Well, it says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And there's different ways to say this step, but the important thing to remember is that the higher power thing isn't, oh, you have to all of a sudden believe in God right now. No. What it's saying is you have to believe that there's something that's going to help you here. And if it's the group, hell yeah. You know, they're a power greater than yourself.
Yes.
Whatever it takes for you, it's a very personal thing. But the key, again, is if you're honest and open-minded and you're not closing the door to any spiritual matters, you know, like they say, a belligerent denial can defeat you. But it doesn't mean you don't have a chance, but it'll make it harder for you. But if you can just be willing to think that there could be something that's going to help you, you will find the way.
Yes.
You know, so
well, and I
that's the
love
question.
Back to Basics, the step 2 question. How it's worded, I think, is important.
Oh, it is. And it's right out of the big book, too. And it says, well, it's not right out of it. The way the big book says it is
There's
great,
a key
but-
word that's different that I like.
Yeah. Well, and so the question for step 2, though, is, do you now believe, or are you even willing to believe that there is a power greater than yourself? And I
I say
totally do
yes.
not.
So that piece of, are you willing to
Yeah.
believe? Because for me in the beginning, and I'm just talking about my darkest days, I had lost so much hope and faith, and I was just so drowned. I was buried in darkness, and it was hard to believe in anything and have faith in anything. I lost faith in my higher power, myself. And so the willingness, you know, and so like you said about having a power in a group, you know, and a few
Yes.
people, they gave me that piece of hope that had me willing to keep doing it, keep doing the work. Not think about it,
Yeah.
just do it.
Just do it. You know, we can sit there and intellectualize and, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And, well, you know, when I was raised in Catholic Church and it really turned blah, blah, blah. You know, we always have these, we build up this defense. It is a shortcoming of ours, and it's something that we've become it's our familiar pattern of survival.
Yes.
And we need to just get over that. And this is how we do it, is by just being honest for once with ourselves, open-minded, and be willing, because usually we've been beat into submission enough at this point.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, hey, I'm willing to listen now. But
So I answer yes.
yeah, and then, I want people to be honest, and we have people that will say, no, I'm not willing. And that's fine. I've still worked with them. I've worked with atheists. It's
But they still showed up,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So that shows, no matter what they're saying, or just because maybe they don't know how to communicate it, the fact that they're showing up to me just shows willingness.
Oh, yeah. And even, if they don't believe in anything spiritual, they can believe in the group conscience. That's enough. That's
They
what
can-
got
yeah.
me here.
Yes.
It's like, those people, they got something I want. But that's all it takes. And don't make it any more complicated than that. Don't let anybody ever tell you that your version of a higher power is wrong, because it's a super personal thing. It's your own. Your own. Whatever it is. I don't care what the hell it is.
Right, absolutely.
Turtle, dog, parrot,
They're wrong.
river, rock, I don't care. But that's number 2. And we're laying this foundation before we get to 3, which is the third surrender step. And this one's huge. And this is where, if you want to make change in your life, you will do something different. And this is where we ask people to do something different, and that's do the third step prayer every day and put it in their own words. And so, just so I don't spend too much time on this, I'm just going to say the modern version of the third step prayer. The third step says, what does it say again?
Came to believe. And the power.
Came to believe
Greater
that
than ourselves.
Power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, right? No, that's 2. 3.
We have them right
Oh, yeah.
here.
Yeah. I can't think of the words. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over there.
See, I have these like Cliff Note versions of the steps in my head,
Yeah.
literally, because I know that just saying the 2 words, they literally have gone down to like 2 words for each step.
Yeah.
So for me, step 3, Cliff Note version is let go.
Yes.
So sorry,
Nice.
I don't have the full blurbs of each step in my head.
Yeah, no, I know them too well, but it's like, so the third step, it's a good one. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. Well,
Good orderly direction.
yeah, and we just say, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of our higher power.
There's that willing word.
Exactly. Willing. And so here, if you're willing to try this, try doing something different. And that is doing this third step prayer once, twice a day, whatever, especially when you wake up and mean it from the bottom of your heart, and just try turning it over. At first it might be lip service, but try to mean that you're going to try to turn your will over to something that's not you, something not you. That's all.
Yeah.
You don't have to call it a higher power or whatever. Just turn it out to the cosmos, to the group, your
The
dog.
universe.
Yeah, your dog. Hey, what the hell? I don't care. But the key to this is on page 63 of the big book. So if you want to find that, dog-ear that page in your big book, because it's huge, and we'll be back at that page too as step 4. But the third step prayer, it's said in a lot of meetings, but I'm going to say it in modern version. So this is basically what I say every morning, and many times throughout the day, actually. And I'll change it up if it changes. But so I say, Creator, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life.
Sorry,
May I
that was
do
our
your-
first alarm.
May I do your will always. Oh, our first alarm, dang. So, but that's all it is take me out of this. I'll do your will. Guide me. Let me be an example to other people and help people.
And for
That's
me,
it.
it was just about doing the next right thing. you know,
Yes.
because my will and my way of the right thing had been so twisted that, yeah, I had to let go of those old patterns of thinking, you know.
Well, yeah, and that's what this whole program is about, is taking ourself out of the picture here, because we're the problem.
Yes.
Alcohol and drugs, that shit's fine all by itself. We're the problem here. Trust me, you're
Well,
not going to
my-
make drugs and alcohol go away.
Well, my Cliff Notes version of that prayer,
Yeah,
thy will be done.
there you go.
That's
Well, yeah,
and
that's
I'll
what-
do that during the day if I'm having some road rage issues or just in the moment and I can't like take some time. I will just say, "Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Thy
Yeah.
will be done." You know, just to kind of say, "Get me out of this.
Oh, yeah.
I need your guidance." Okay.
And I say, deliver us from ego.
Yes, I
Because
switched that
ego
up
is
too.
my shortcomings, my go-to BS that I use to be willful and insert my will and try to control the situation. And we can't control this stuff.
No, the
Anyway.
delusion of control.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the first alarm is just to remind me to check the chat and see what listeners, if they're interacting. And I see Mohana's on, and he says willing is the important key. And
Yes.
he said he got, okay, I got to move this over. He said, I got blessed, did step 1, 2, and 3 first night, and had a moment of greatness with God. Someone tried telling me I was going too fast. That's crazy, right? You would concede to that.
Yeah, not too fast, no.
Everyone has their own pace. Thank you very much. And he says, I love the way you just said the modern prayer. He said he loved how you did that, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all we got for listeners interacting right now. So if you want to, should we go into step 4? Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on that. Somebody saying you're going too fast. Well, a big problem that I've noticed in the last many years is that you hear a lot of this, oh, just take your time and, you know, whatever you got to do to get through this, and, you know, just take as long as you need on step. No.
Oh my gosh,
life and
no.
death shit, man. You got to
Yes.
move on and don't worry about doing it perfect. Do the best you can and keep moving. Mm-hmm. You know?
Well, and Wally P., who wrote the book, so I've attended his workshops online, and him and his wife Britt say redundantly, it is so key not to sit on any of these steps. You know, quickly and often, and the concept behind that is, you know, the reality is these steps are a life program. You know, once I feel like for me, I'll speak on me. Once I really had a good understanding, I was able to process them so well internally that I love and I live in these steps, and so I'm always utilizing these steps constantly. And so quickly and often means, you know, do it best, like not perfect, just get through them, but get through them, because it lightens such a burden that when it's ready, you can go back and redo ones that you might need to redo, that you feel like you still are feeling some darkness with those. Redo them.
Yeah.
I've redone a step 4 so many times, Jason, and they pop up still.
Oh, yeah, and I'm in the middle of another one again right now. I mean, I look forward to them. Before, it was like this fearful thing, and now
Same.
it's like, man, it's the game changer.
Yes.
I look forward to it because you can look life in the eye, you can look at yourself in the eye, and resentments just sneak up on you sometimes. You know what I mean?
100%. You know,
Yeah.
the shit show of life, the circus of life, it's never going to stop changing.
Yeah.
And how I recognize if I need to do a step 4 is, you know, I'll go to my meetings, I'll share about it, right? I'll talk to my higher power, I'll process it the way, you know, that I do normally. And if it's still weighing on me, I will sit down and say, okay, I need to do a step 4 and a 5. I need to really get this out. It's a healing step for me, like,
yeah.
you know. So
It is.
especially with the heavy stuffs.
And I mean, not to jump ahead, but we ultimately strive to live in the 10th step where, you know, these things don't build up on us because we face them as they come along. But some things just sneak in there.
Some
and just like
scary
Bridge,
stuff.
just like you just said, you know, if you you know, make all the amends that you can and you can put it out of your mind, you don't need to do a big 4-step with that one. You're done. You've forgiven. It's move on.
Right.
But these things sneak up. And, you know, now I have a little list going right now already of another 4-step. And those things need to happen.
Who do you do your step 5 with?
I don't know. I'll probably do it with my sponsor again.
Okay, because there's no rules, and we'll talk about that a little later. towards
Yeah,
the end of the show
sorry,
about step
excuse me.
5 and why it's so important. Because here again, my old thinking, I would reason to myself, well, I've written it all out, right? I've talked to my higher power about it, my higher power is genderless.
There you
Like
go.
he or she is a human thing. Like that's peon stuff to me.
Yeah.
My higher power is this great spirit, right? So I've already let the great spirit know. Like, why do I need to tell another human being? Like that seems silly. And so we'll explain why that's so important and why I kept reusing, even after I did this 4th step. You have right away that you cannot hesitate on doing that step 5, and there is no rules with who you do step 5 with. As long as it's a human, but I need multiple humans and a lot. And then there's some, we'll talk about, it's really important to make sure it's with the right people.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually not somebody on your list. Anyway,
Absolutely not somebody on your list.
So we did 1, 2, and 3. That foundation has to be solid. But if you don't feel like you did this perfect step 3, I don't care. You just move on and think about step 4 now. Because this is a thing that you just keep doing over and over. So, anyway,
Made
step
a
4
fearless.
made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Okay, so we're going to do, all this is in, everybody should have a big book, first of all, but in the big book from pages 62 on, and maybe it starts on 63, but 62 on, 62 to like 67 or so, is really the meat of the 4th step, and we're just gonna kind of do a back to basics type version of what we're looking at here. So
Yeah.
when we do a 4th step now, this is the game changer, and to come at it the way we do is a big icebreaker because it just takes the fear out of it, and you don't have to start with the biggest one. But I did, But you don't have to. You can do the guy that pissed you off on the road today or whatever. But what we're doing is we're going to think about the things, especially if we're new in this and our minds are a little cloudy. We're going to take the things that are really at the top of our mind right now, the things that we lose sleep over, right? So what we're doing is we're basically doing a commercial inventory on our lives right now. But this doesn't mean that we just sit there and nitpick ourselves and talk about how crappy we are and stuff. But we're going to think about resentment, because resentment,
The number one offender.
yeah, is the number one offender, and it kills more people than anything. Resentment is that thing I like to refer to it as that hot coal that you're holding on to that you mean to throw at the person you're pissed off at. Right? Who's it burning? It's burning your hand,
Yourself.
right? And so, they're renting space in your head. They're not losing sleep, but you toss and turn all night thinking about these things. Those are the things that will keep you using, believe it or not. And they can be deadly. This is a bad thing to have. And all sorts of badness comes from resentment. Fear and anger and all those things, which we'll talk about that too. But a lot of that is resentment-based stuff. And the key, resentment is a huge liability for us, the big liability. The asset that is like the opposite of that, what we need to work towards, but from resentment, is forgiveness. So again, the willingness, so honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. The willingness to forgive is going to be the key for this here, because what we do with that 4th step is right away you can think of a few people or things or institutions or the cops or COVID or whatever the hell you want, and write that down. Say that's resentment because it really takes up a lot of my time thinking about. And then you, on another little section right next to it, or right next to it on the piece of paper, put the cause of why it's pissing me off. And it's, you could go on your little list and put, well, she cheated on me, he stole from me, or whatever the cause is of that resentment, and as many things as you want. And you don't have to have a specific name for that resentment. You're going to know who it is. It's your list.
Right.
So you've got the resentment, then you've got the cause and why it's burned you up, and then on the 3rd section next to that, you write out, what is it affecting? Is it affecting my self-esteem, my security, my finances, my relationships? Yeah. And so those are the 3 columns, and this is as simple as we're going to keep it right now. These are the 3 columns that we do when we're writing out this resentment. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. You could even just write the name and you know why, and then you know what it affects.
Write a couple words.
Or whatever. Yeah, something that's going to spark this for you. But you want to be as thorough as you can to yourself and be honest with yourself about what you're burned up at about this. And then what we do is we take the other person out of it entirely. Flip it over.
Flip that paper over.
Yeah. And
this is the best part for me.
That's your 4th column, And so this can be kind of tough because now you're going to look at your part in this. It says our own mistakes. Well, a lot of times they've done you wrong and maybe you haven't done anything, but if you really look deeply and honestly, you had something to do with that situation. Even if it wasn't something that you did intentionally or willfully, but there's there's a connection there.
Yes, and sometimes it takes time. So I'm going to share a personal story.
Yeah, please.
And you've heard this.
Yeah.
Okay, and luckily, this is why it's key to keep doing these steps and processing, because some of the stuff was so buried in me that, that's why it's very important that I continue my program on a daily basis, because stuff will pop up for whatever reason. Somebody says something and boom, I'm back in a memory that I didn't even process. So here I am doing the 4th workshop with you, this Back to Basics, right? And I always like to just volunteer an example just to lighten the load for anybody else. And so I've listed a person that I've list many times, and I said my ex, I'm resentful at my ex. Why? Because I list out the reasons, and then but the best part was, okay, and it affects all these things, right? So my normal answer, my go-to answer, was, just because that's only that came to my mind at the time, was, well, my part in it at first was hard to see. I said, well, my part in it was I continued to enable him. I allowed him to use, I allowed him to treat me this way, so I knew that it wasn't right, but I allowed it. But what was crazy is when I did that workshop with you, after I got done saying that, something triggered in my brain to think about my thinking. And I thought, oh my God. I remembered in that moment, it was a spiritual awakening. I remembered in that moment, no. I remember I had been sober I had just gotten my year, right? And I remember him asking, and he was very understanding and very trying to be supportive. And he was like, "Are you okay with my friends coming over to drink?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. There's no way, And, but here's being truthfully honest to myself. This is, finally, it took me a long time to really be able to dig that deep. And I remember my thinking back then was, if I allow him to do this, eventually he'll probably be okay with me using as well. Yeah. He had never seen me not sober. When we met, he never knew me before that, right? So there was awakening, because I realized, it made me cry, because I was like, oh my gosh, it wasn't to be evil, but it was my way of thinking, my pattern of thinking. That's how I did. I planted that scene in my own head. If I allow him, eventually he might be okay with me, and I'll be okay with me drinking again and using again. Yeah. And guess what do you think happened? Yeah. That relationship went downhill real fast. Yes. But it was my side. But I only did that after going through that step so many times, and then saying it out loud in that workshop and really processing it. I'm like, holy shit! It was great, because then I could move on from that, and then that gave me a deeper forgiveness for not only him, but for myself, my old me. Yep. Because I think what's key is, resentments, I believe, are premeditated expectations, right? If you break apart the word, resent means to refeel. And for me, the biggest resentments, like, okay, this is what you didn't know. So like, last couple weeks, there's been a newcomer, which is great because he really opens me up to who I was. And he said, well, what if I don't have any resentments? Because that was me. I didn't have any resentments. I knew I was the effing problem. I knew it was me. I took blame. I could take blame for everything. I punished myself. The biggest person in Back to Basics opened me up to realize is I had a huge resentment on myself.
Yes.
And so that was like another aha moment, is that I need to put myself on that list, and I need to move on and get to that point where I could forgive myself. That was huge to healing. That was, a big part.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
When Jason and I do this workshop, Jason's like the guru. He's like the master. He gives like all the knowledge, and I like to sprinkle in my little
No, but man,
my little wisdoms.
So here's what I've found about our Back to Basics thing, and why we share this with another human being is just exactly what you said. And when we do these icebreaker things where we give an example in front of this group, sometimes of complete strangers, and as I'm talking it out, just like you're saying, I've had these huge realizations because I'm talking it out to another human being, and all of a sudden I almost started crying in front of everybody because I just had this moment, And
I love when you give examples, because I'm like, ooh, it's gonna be good. Here we go. Yeah. And it's really cool, and it's really great to show that vulnerability and to see, that we're all just human.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times we're not even aware of some shortcoming that some character defect that we've used over and over because it's become so familiar, and in our mind of running this resentment over and over, the other person is so wrong all the time. You forget all about anything you had to do with it.
And it's mind blowing. And like recently, the last one we just did at Blaine, I got I still have one more name on my list, right? That I'm working with Wally directly to get on. That's the biggest one. But there's no other list. I finally got that number 2 right there, my mom. I remember that, and luckily it was just a small group, and I went out and stepped out and had a break with this person, and I was talking about how, I give an example, and he's like, oh yeah, you should just be vulnerable, why not? And I was like, so I felt the fear, but I was amongst everyone in that room I knew, and I trusted, and I gave my mom, which has been on my list since the beginning of time, and it was wonderful because I had forgiven her in the sense of like the capacity that most would forgiven her, but to be able to say it out loud and to really share like my side of it, like, my part in it. And it was like, for me, it was finally, I was able to let it go. Yeah. Like I really got to be aware that I really have moved on and forgiven her. Yes. Whether she deserves it or not. I'm just kidding. Everyone does, but
those people are sick like us too.
Yes.
We have to remember that. And a lot of times people have something really terrible happen to them when they're young, and then they're like, well, what's my part in that? Well, nobody's asking you to blame yourself for anything. You're not looking for the blame, how you're blamed for because you were molested by your uncle, stuff that's terrible. But the guy was sick, and to be willing to forgive something like that can move you in a direction that you would not believe how gratifying, it can be so uplifting. I mean, to get away from that. But the thing is a lot of times we're victims we don't want to play the victim anymore. That's part of what this program is about. But we have been victims in certain things. But there's a part of what we've become from that we've caused it to even become worse only out of self-defense. It's not, you're not doing anything wrong, but this is your behavior pattern, over a lifetime that we're just going to try to fix some of those things, we're not.
Well, and not even the victim. Like I felt like the villain because my whole life I felt like the black sheep. Like literally to hide all the abuse that was going on, we were pinpointed as the problem. Me and my brother were the reason for everything. Like, we're the bad kids, which is crazy because we weren't. But I would hear how they would talk about us, the adopted kid, like, like she did this. I'm like, I saw through example. My parents basically taught me what not to do as a parent. Yeah. But it was wonderful because thankfully, that's our hot seat alarm. It's coming up, Jason. You ready?
Oh, nice.
Let me just wrap this up. But the key was I was luckily seeing a therapist. And what she said to me that really made it sink in and resonated, she said, Bridge, you have to accept the fact that your mom is never going to be who you want her to be. It still makes me emotional.
Yeah.
Because it touched me deep in my soul, because no matter what, your parents will always be, like, there's always that unconditional component that I wanted to please them, and I wanted them to love me and accept me. But when she said that, Bridge, she doesn't have the capacity. She just doesn't have that capability to be that deeper level of a person. And so what they say in the big book is, it is a sick person. And what makes it change for me is you have to treat the sick person as you would treat a sick friend. And so immediately when I say, well, any of my friends or this new family I have, if they were sick or they were going through some things, of course I'm going to treat them differently. Mm-hmm. So if I just take that mom label out of it, and I think about her as a sick person, that are in the rooms, that go back out and they're struggling, I can move on from that and forgive her for the person that she is.
Yes.
And
that's that whole thing about flipping the thing over and taking the other person out of it entirely, mm-hmm. which is hard to do, but the approach that these people are sick too is going to be helpful. Mm-hmm. And I don't like it if people use that as an excuse of why they've always been wrong, because everybody else is so fucked up.
Yeah.
No,
You got to take responsibility.
You do. And
I did.
Yeah, and the thing is also is that when you are doing this 4-step stuff, I was on my list before. I am again, because I resent myself big time, and it's been hard to forgive myself for some of the things. But I can, and I have with a lot of that. But what I found when I first did this last 4-step, like 7 years ago almost or something, mm-hmm. I was way more selfish than I thought. You know what I mean? I was like, holy shit, man! It all points to this.
Well, you gotta give yourself some grace.
But the thing is I've overcome a lot of that because I realized how much of what I had done was out of selfish motives. And I'm not really a selfish person, but my addictions and my behaviors, my shortcomings, those defects of characters that were my survival instinct, mm-hmm. were based in selfishness to feed my addictions and mm-hmm. my willfulness and all this and that. But when we make this 4-step list and we just make it nice and simple, we take that other person out and just look at them as a sick person and treat them like you would treat a sick friend, just mm-hmm. like Bridge just said. You're not going to change these people. Mm-mm. We're not doing a 4-step so that you got this list of people that you're going to go out and fix.
Yeah. They're just going to change it. They're going to accept you and forgive you. And no. It's for you. And what I like to say about step 4 for me is one word. It's awareness. It's turning on that light. For me, I don't say moral inventory when I work with sponsees. I say it's a personal inventory. It's for me now. It's a positive thing. Step 4 is turning on that light. So it's a dark room in there. It was a dark place in there for me. And what step 4 does, you're not going to walk in a dark room, and try to figure out where you're going. You're going to bump into things. You're going to bruise yourself. You're going to get hurt. You're going to have all this pain. What step 4 does is you walk into the room, you turn on the light, and you see those things blocking your path, right? That you've been bumping on. Yes. And you turn on that light so you can move those things out of the way to clear that path. It's a journey to healing.
Yes, that is the best analogy
Isn't
ever.
it great? It's turning inward and really looking at yourself.
And it is.
In a positive way.
And once you can identify those shortcomings, and we won't even call them, they're these familiar character things.
I call them character defenses.
Yeah, defenses.
They were enrooted in me.
Yes, and this is how we survived and how we lived. Okay? Well, we can't get around them until we identify them. And the cool thing about healthy people that have been in recovery for a while is you can call them out on being an asshole or selfish or deceptive.
And we're grateful.
And they'll be like, you're right.
Yeah, thanks for pointing out. You're right. I am
now
stubborn.
And we can look at our defects and laugh now, but we can we'll never be perfect, right? We're not spiritual
Progress.
you know.
Yeah,
not
always trying to
spiritual
progress.
perfection. Exactly. And but once we know our defects, we can try to avoid doing that or being willful or being an asshole or being judgmental as much. You know? We get better and better, but that's what we want to do. We want to be able to help people. That's the whole point of living to me. And it's not just
Yes.
other alcoholics either. I mean, we want to help other alcoholics and addicts, but we want to be helpful to anybody.
Humanity.
Anything. Or rocks and plants and
Yeah.
dogs and whatever it is.
Oh, we
I
go-
don't care.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry. And then really quick on the 5th step. Should I just do a quick?
Yes, I want to, and then we got to do the hot seat.
Okay.
But yes, talk about the 5th step, and then I
Well,
got something to read too of
Cool,
what I think
good.
is key.
Okay, really quick. When it comes to
Step
the 5th
5.
step,
Yeah.
do you want to read something before I?
So yeah, this is right from Back to Basics. It says this step helps ease the pain and suffering associated with hiding the worst parts of ourselves from others. And I love to underline this. We share our liabilities because we are great at self-deception, right? Aren't we the ones who used to say we didn't have a problem? Didn't we tell ourselves over and over that we were doing fine as we were sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss of our addiction? And what I love is that they say the crucial importance, for the step 5, whoever you share that with, is confidentiality. You gotta have trust, okay? But there's this thing called legal privilege, okay? So one way to avoid problems in this area is to tell your sharing partner that he or she is not to share anything with you that is criminal in nature. Okay, so before we get into that, I think the key thing for me for step 5 is the reason I had to tell another human being is because I could self-deceive myself and talk myself back into using again. And it was so important for me to say it out loud to another human being, to look them in the eyes. I still get emotional about it. And to see that they still loved me. They still looked at me the same. They still cared about me. And they still wanted me to succeed, I had self-deceived myself that I thought these such horrible things that I had done, that, to myself, to other people, that no one could forgive me. I thought only my higher power would forgive me. And it was such a weight lifted. I did my step 5 with my therapist on accident. And then I did the rest of it with my sponsor. And it was so wonderful to see these women just kind of like nothing happened. And this is so crazy, Jason, you don't want to know, like some of the stuff that I shared, a mask taken off, I shared it, and they still genuinely unconditionally cared and supported me. And that was the huge weight lifted that I had been carrying around in my heart and my soul for years. So no wonder I kept going back to my old pattern of numbing that out, escaping that pain. But pain shared is pain lessened, right? Something like that.
Yes.
So, but the privilege part is important. So it's very important when you're sharing that it's not criminal. You make sure that he or she is aware of who it is that they're not legally bound. So I do think that it's important if you do have some criminal stuffs that you feel like you need to get out and talk to someone about, you find those key people that have the privilege to, they're not mandatory reporters. It's their legal, they have to keep it in confidentiality. It's like a doctor, attorney, or clergy, right? Are the 3 people that are bound for privacy.
Yeah.
Does that sound correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to say. Otherwise, we're going to jump into the hot seat, Jason. And then there's a couple more comments from the listeners. Hang on a second. Let me just read what they've said.
For sure.
Oh, Mahana, he's so great. Bill used to do steps over a period of days with people who were suffering. Did you know Wally P? He shared with me that in the days, back in the days, if it was like an emergency, his sponsor, James W., I want to say, he was known for he could run you through 12 steps in 20 minutes in a parking lot on a napkin. You do an L and an A.
Yeah.
And then, just because that's the thing, quickly and often, just to get you through them, just to get that awakening. you know. So that was monumental. But
Yeah, and Wally's done these workshops in a day, you know.
oh, yes.
All
And you can
12
tell
steps.
he knows his
Yeah.
stuff. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it can be done.
And he does it in such a humble manner, like such a down-to-earth manner. You feel like you did it, but you also feel like, I did it? Oh man, our lives are going crazy. Okay. Maha said, that was deep. Thank you for sharing, Bridge. You helped me understand resentment even better. Letting resentment go is freedom. Oh, thanks, Mahana. Good way of explaining them being sick.
Yes.
You know, like that's key. Jason, are you ready for the hot seat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the one thing on the fifth step, just don't do it with somebody that's on your list.
Please don't. Oh my gosh. Talk about building more resentments. Well, and I think it's key too that you can't. Well, and that's what will bring you back is like the steps. I want to know. Everyone should know this. The steps are meant to be done in order.
Yes.
Okay, you cannot make this
Don't
list
go
and run
doing
out and try
step
doing some
9.
amends. No,
Yeah,
no,
don't
no.
do
Those
that.
are steps 8 and 9. You gotta chill. There's a reason. There's an importance to steps 6 and 7 to really have an understanding of those before
Yes.
you attempt the amends.
So true.
Let's see if this will even work. I don't even know. Does that sound hot, Jason? It's the hot seat. Is the ass on fire? It's such an ouch. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Question number 1. What's your pet peeve when you work the steps with someone? So say you're doing, working through the steps with someone. Do you have a pet peeve?
Oh, yes, I do. I do. And I'm guilty of it, too. My pet peeve is when people have a contingency about everything. They're a victim about life is just out to get them, and they can't do what they're asked to do or what they need to be doing because I need this job. I got to get this apartment. I can't do that yet because I got to blah, blah, blah. And that's a huge pet peeve because I've seen people that are just about dying and have nowhere to live do the steps because they realize that that's priority.
It's a life or death. This is a life or death journey for some of us, many of us.
Yeah, and so I'm a nice guy, and I'll sit there and nod my head as they give me all these damn excuses, and it's like, whatever.
The reasons.
That is a pet peeve. I'm sorry, it's bad, but man, it's like, and I've done it, so that's why it's so obvious to me when people are doing that, and it's like, man, that was a huge mistake of mine, and don't be a big dummy. But okay,
Yes, and I tend to just keep asking questions like open-ended questions to maybe help them process more, because for me my mind was so blocked, and just maybe ask certain questions that might help them slowly let down their wall a little bit, because I know a lot of times there's a wall up with me, even this person that I want them to trust me, but trust can take a long time. But yeah, I hear, oh my gosh, I work with so many sponsees that I'll hear those same reasonings, and I just give them time, and I try to ask questions just to make them self-reflect and possibly think about what's really matters here. I'd say your life. Because the research, then go back out like me, I had to learn the hard way over and over.
And sometimes they're going to have to learn the hard way, and that's the only way we learn. But yeah, it's a pet peeve of mine. What can I say?
Yes, it's very valid. Okay, question number 2, Jason. What fear has or had kept you from working a step 4?
Oh man.
Sure.
Well, just that self-reflection and knowing that, okay, I got to face all the things that I bullshitted myself about, and justified. When you're justifying stuff, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
So that's what held me back a lot, and I would feel good. I'd be in the 3rd step and feel good, and I would do all kinds of service work, and that was good enough, but it wasn't good enough. And I would end up back out there again. But I intellectualize the shit out of everything to make it look like, oh, I'm so different that I can't do this because I'm different somehow. That fatal individualism, which is pure BS, because no, we're all the same, and we're not all the same. I don't mean that in a bad way, but we we know what ails you if you're an alcoholic or an addict, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had to
Face
just do it.
yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Face the truth of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 3. What's the worst advice you've ever received? Can you think of anything?
The worst advice I've ever received.
This is kind of a good question,
There's
right?
been-
I hope you got to
there's been
ponder on it.
A lot of bad advice out there.
Yeah, so whatever comes to your mind.
The worst advice I ever received was, I don't want to say that.
Well, now you have to say it. You don't have to throw out names or anything.
The worst advice I ever received was somebody telling me that I could only approach people with the higher power thing if it was Jesus Christ.
Yes.
That was bad
That
advice.
shut me
I'm
down
sorry.
right away. Jesus
I'm
Christ.
sorry, and that's great if people whatever, but that was bad advice because that was in a room full of people.
Yeah.
That it was like, well, about 3/4 of those people never came back again.
Yeah.
Man,
That scares a
that would
lot
have
of
been me
people
if
away.
it was,
There's no one right way.
No, and
It's
it's a
got to
very
be what
personal
works
thing.
for you and what feels right to you.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm not hating on Jesus Christ or nothing like that. Don't get me wrong, not one bit. But somebody saying they have the way.
And this is what you have to do,
Yeah.
or you're going to eternal hell.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
he's a great guy and a good speaker, but he was very authoritarian and right in my face about it's got to be this way, right in front of a crowd of people.
That's
It's like,
insanity
that's
to
bad
me.
advice.
I'd be a little worried about that person.
Anybody that was left in the room, I'm like, he's wrong.
Oh my gosh, and no disrespect to anyone that follows that religion or anything, because I love other religions. I love
Me
studying
too.
religions, and I think they're beautiful.
Yes.
But sometimes some of them are a little cuckoo. There's this one, not to make jokes, but there's this great. The main idea of it is like. I had so many people that would love, those people aren't in my life anymore, they'd love to bring up the past, right? They'd love to, remember when you did this or you said this, and I'm
yeah.
like, so there's this great meme that I just read that said, so when anybody brings up your past, you just say, okay, well, Jesus dropped the charges. So we don't need to talk about that.
We can move on.
Yeah. It's
I
great.
get
It really throws them off when I say that. Like,
there
stops
was
them in
some
their
worse
tracks.
advice too, though.
Yeah.
It was, here, take this and then drive up to the campsite. 3 weeks later, no.
Oh my gosh, it gets so
Okay,
hot
I'm
in
sorry.
this room.
Yeah, it does big time.
Okay, and so that was the hot seat.
Nice.
That was wonderful. That was great, and we are zipping through this. So, any final thoughts on just step 4 or 5 before we go into our last segment, which is the live Facebook memes?
Okay. Well, we just touched on the big one with step 4 with resentment and stuff. Okay. Now that's where we start in our list, and that's a good place to start.
Should we
because
list all the liabilities?
You can, but the thing is when you get down into the meat of this stuff, especially with resentment, you find that a lot of that fear stems from resentment, and a lot of the anger stems from the fear.
Yes.
So it's not just, they're not separate things. So
No.
people like to make this really complicated, and they're like, I have to single out a fear or something. Well, a lot of times that fear is tied to a resentment.
Yes.
Or something. Or sometimes, you have a fear, like, oh man, I think my boss wants to fire me or something. Well, that can be tied to a resentment because you resent your boss. I mean, it goes, they work together. So don't think that you have to individualize every little liability. But yeah, you read off those.
Oh, well, I mean, and I agree, so there's resentment, fear, selfishness, dishonesty, false pride, jealousy, envy, and laziness. And I do like when people come to the weekly meeting, Tuesday nights for at least 6:15, or one of our workshops. We really break it down, which is great, because the difference between jealousy and envy are key things. Like, jealousy is about people, and envy is about things. And I'm actually trying to read this new book, Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart. Okay, talk about making things complicated. Like, they broke it down to, like, there's 87 emotions.
Dang.
Okay. I'm still reading the book because it's really great, actually, so far. But I still believe to keep it simple, and what my truth is that there's 2 core emotions, love and fear. And out of all those 87 emotions, they all stem from love and fear, period. So, like, I think I'll know more when I read through the book more, but one of the cool things I wanted to share is that she's talking about, like, a lot of people's go-to, and this was me, is anxiety. A lot of my fear, I'd have physical, like, anxiety, like, it was so bad. And now, like, my therapist, too, has helped me work through, like, but a lot of the same symptoms that you have from anxiety are the same as, don't do that, it's going to make we're going to hear the pop machine. We can't do it. We're almost done, Jason. I'll get so hot in here. It says, is that, is the same feelings. Your body will have the same feelings as, like, excitement. Okay. So, but a person that was sick like myself I was already like, oh, I'm having anxiety, and it would grow into a full-on panic attack. Mm-hmm. And so being able to sit down and recognize my thoughts, my emotions, allowed me to take the right actions so that I could calm my old brain's, like, safety flashes. My brain would immediately start detecting these things and want to protect me and start making things go on. Well, now I can sit and process and be like, this is a healthy fear. Okay. You're not feeling anxious. It's excitement. And so anytime I feel that healthy fear or anxiety, I'm like, oh, this is something I need to do. Here we go. Boom, boom. Like, that's how I get through. I've gone through so much of my anxiety now is I'm like, oh, wait, it's just excitement. Yeah, it's excitement. Here we go. Exactly. Let's just do this thing. Okay.
But really quick with the 4, I just want to make sure that this is kind of clear. So, with resentment, no, that's all right. With resentment, the asset for that is forgiveness. Now, I live in love and gratitude and forgiveness. Okay, so the love is like the most powerful thing.
Yeah. Right.
So, but the forgiveness is huge for resentment. Just being willing to forgive. And then with fear, the asset that is set against the liability of fear is faith. So faith that your higher power is going to help you, is going to take care of this for you.
Yes.
And those 2 things, faith and forgiveness, are huge.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get through all 12 steps to have these things. Just be full of love, be grateful and be willing to forgive and have faith that it's going to be
that's going to be okay. It's going to work out. And you know what? That's the fact of the matter is it's going to work out the way it's going to work out. Mm-hmm. That delusion of control that I thought that I had to, but I got to do this and I got to say. No, at the end of the day, when I let those things go, the serenity prayer, let's just say the serenity prayer. I have it on my arm, Jason.
Oh,
because
nice.
This is like, for life, this is like my life motto is, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, okay? The courage to change the things that I can, but the wisdom to know the difference.
That's the key, right?
That's the key. And I love a quote I heard is like, wisdom is just healed pain. So some of the most wisest, smartest people I know have gone through so much pain. That's how they got to where they're at.
Wisdom is the domain of the whiz, which is extinct. Sorry, that's
and fun facts, Jason. So I'm doing research right now, just for my own, for fun. This is sad, whatever to admit this, but I like researching things, and I'm researching geniuses. Okay, cool. Previous geniuses. Mm-hmm. Guess what you do, Jason? That geniuses tend to do. Highly intelligent people is they doodle.
Really?
Yes, you're a doodler. I find all your papers. You're a doodler. It means you're highly intelligent. It's a key indicator that you may be a very highly intelligent person. And from knowing you these last few years, I would agree with that. Okay, you ready for the memes?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just do a couple since we're just so short on time. But
cool.
Hopefully, it doesn't muck up.
Did you get more
the internet connection? Hannah says, "Good way of." Good way of explaining and wait, maybe we did. I gotta scroll down. Oh no, I'm getting trolls now, Jason. And then I just block them. Melanie Moberg was on, an author of Warriors in Recovery, and she brought the trolls. I'm blaming her. No, I'm just kidding. Half kidding. I never had a problem before that.
No.
But it's okay because this hookup on the podcast is I can just boop, flick them off and then they'll come back.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, I keep going to the wrong phone. Okay. So you ready? Keep these simple. So you got to describe the picture if there's something to describe, or it might just be words. But these are the ones that stuck out for whatever reason during my week here. Okay. Describe. I just want you to say, oh, shoot. I won't be able to blow them up. So if you look at the bottom one.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Read what it says. Oh, that's the guy.
Robert Downey Jr.
There you go.
And he looks a little annoyed.
Yes.
Can you read what it says?
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards.
And so the top part says, when you hit an AA meeting.
Full of old timers, and your friend says, clean instead of sober.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards.
Nice.
Isn't that great?
The Wizards.
Okay, so. Oh man, this sucks. So, like, my internet got mucked up, and I won't be able to show. I won't be able to show many of them, but this one's kind of great. Just read that one.
Stop taking Facebook so seriously. Most of your likes are coming from people on the toilet.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't do that Facebook stuff because of that.
It's true. Like, you really can't base anything real off
just gotta go
the Facebook.
away.
That's just scary. I'm going to risk doing one that's might cut us from the show, but I'm gonna try and see if I can show. What happened? You know what? It's all right.
Oh.
We don't need to.
What was it?
There was a bunch of them that were pretty funny, but I can't pull them up because I had it connected with a stronger internet. Oh, okay, here's one. So there's 4 scenes. So just go from left, go in order.
Okay.
So
I need help getting rid of a body.
so it's 2 cats in the shadows.
And the one cat's like, I know a guy. He'll take care of it. And then the last scene. Wait, what does that say though? Effing cats. It's a human taking care of the mouse or whatever rat they just killed. Nice.
Yeah, I love ones with cats. This is just so funny. Okay, read this one. So the top is the 2 men having a conversation.
Want to hear my Batman impression? Sure. Oh, not kryptonite. That's Superman. Thanks, man. I've been practicing.
Superman?
That was not Batman.
Oh my god.
That wasn't Batman.
It's too terrible that I laugh so hard I get all sweaty. Okay, 2 more now that I found these. Okay, so it's 2 gentlemen talking, and then one of them has like a daughter with him.
Have you met my daughter Beth? And what's Beth short for? Because she's only 3.
I like this one.
That's good. That's good.
These ones I pulled from the dad jokes.
Bad dad jokes.
I found they took this one personal because, every time I say, oh, I'm Bridge, and everyone's like, well, what is that,
What is that
short for? I don't know why I'm short. I'm vertically challenged.
Oh, I like that.
And no, it's not short for
Nice.
that. Okay, last one, and for the new holiday coming up, it's an expired gallon of milk with the date February 14th on it.
14th.
What does it say?
And it says, well, at least someone is going to be spoiled on Valentine's Day. No!
That's a shout out to all the single folks.
That's almost as bad as the one I'm going to tell now. So,
Yes!
What do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhinoceros?
What?
Elefino.
Whew, that was a clean one. Whew, that was a little
Yes.
weird. Thanks, Jason. Well, thank you so much for coming again.
Yes.
And sharing your wisdom. And next week, I just want to let people know I'm going to really talk about why language is so important. especially in the recovery world, and how powerful it is, and how important it is to fail. Failure is important, okay? This might throw some people off. And what Will Smith has said, and I don't know if he got it from someone else, but there's this clip I'm going to play next week that's great. And he says, fail early, fail often, fail forward.
Nice.
Don't you love that?
Yes, that's good.
I'm like, that just like blew my mind. Yes, fail forward. You know, because you're going to keep having failures, but that's how I learned and grew, and that's how I gained some wisdom.
Yeah, you got
It's through all my failures. Yeah, I wouldn't be where I'm
Don't
at.
be afraid to fail. And like my wife says sometimes, don't be afraid to suck.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just got to suck at it. You just got to go do it.
exactly. That's how the successful people, how many times do you think they failed?
No.
I'm going to have great, like, actual facts of, like, all the great successes and then listing out all their failures, how they got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's key. All right, listeners, thank you for joining us. I hope you got some connection, and hopefully Step 4 seems a little less daunting. And I hope you guys have a great week, have a great night, and I will check in with you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.